When I was 13, I made one of the biggest mistakes that I ever have in my entire life. And it all started when I moved into this new house. So I lived in this one house for most of my life until eventually my parents got divorced and I got these step siblings. Now, these step siblings that I met, I obviously had not known my whole life. They were a new part of the family. So I didn't talk to them that much and we were beginning to get to know them until eventually, after a little while of knowing them, I didn't know them too well. We ended up moving into this new house with my stepmom and my dad. And when we moved into this house, I was introduced to the game Minecraft. Now, the thing is, I had never really played it. I did a little bit on like these consoles and stuff, but it wasn't really my thing. Until eventually, when we got there, we had this backyard. It was really small at the time, but I was so young, I had no idea. And we would play it in real life. And the way we would do it is I would literally get a stick and like hit a tree with it. Like I would literally grab the biggest log I could find. I would just snap it over trees. And to me, this was like collecting wood, which was so goofy at the time, but also kind of wholesome. So anyway, we were doing this and it was so just fun and enjoyable to hang out outside with these new friends of mine because at the time they didn't even seem like siblings. They were just like friends that I got to hang out with all the time. So now we're playing this Minecraft game outside, and eventually we decide that we're gonna make a plan. It was me and my stepsister, my biological brother and my stepbrother were doing other stuff at the time, so it was just me and her. And we decided that we were gonna pull our first ever all-nighter. So what we do is we go inside. I had this room. It was a kind of decently sized bed and a TV. And we were just watching like Disney Channel cartoons, just that like kid stuff, of course. And we decided that we wanted more. Playing Minecraft outside, watching TV and all this stuff, it wasn't enough to suit our childhood needs. We wanted to push the limits and do something that we're not supposed to because I don't know about you, but for some reason, if you're not supposed to do something, it makes it slightly more fun. So we decide we're going to spend the entire night up. We're sitting in there and we started making these silly bands. I don't know if you guys know, or I don't even think that's the right name. It's like those little rubber bands, the really tiny ones, and you wrap them around this grate. I'll pop it up on the screen because I can't explain it too well. But we were doing that and it was so fun. I specifically remember just the creativity in my brain flowing so heavily because at this time I recently had discovered I had pretty bad ADHD, which is this thing in your brain where you literally like go from thing to thing to thing. You can't focus on anything at once. And for some reason, this made me zone in. It made me really think. And I was sitting there. We were doing this pretty much all night. We were watching TV, talking, making forts and stuff. It was literally a childhood dream. Now, there was one bad thing. Something that I kind of feel like I shouldn't say, but I'll say it because I think it's worth being vulnerable to you guys. We struggled with money very bad. Like, so bad that at times it was hard to eat things. I was living off ramen, kind of like a college student, except I was 13. And it was because my parents were going through a lot of distress. There was a lot of issues with my family. It was really bad, like very bad, okay? But for me, at my young age, I didn't think too much of it until I did. And the reason that I did is because I was looking for food one night and I realized, like, oh my gosh, we really almost have like nothing. Like, what am I going to do? But once again, using my creativity, I decided to pull this all-nighter. I'm going to have to eat something, right? My parents aren't going to cook anything. I can't go out anywhere. I'm so young. But I had these ramen noodles. So if you guys know those noodles that come in the packages, I feel like most of you probably do. I grabbed one of these ramen noodle squares and I go and I'm thinking like, okay, this is what I'm going to eat. And while we eat, we can do something else. So I put the ramen in the microwave. I cook it up. And I did it right. This is my first time ever really making my own food, by the way, because I was alone. My parents were asleep. So I make this and I start eating it with my stepsister. And we're just sitting there really enjoying the moment. Until eventually in my head, I really started thinking like, wow, things are a lot worse than I thought. Like, we're really in a horrible situation. And I remember hearing recently at this same time that our power bill was about to be like too late, so our power was literally going to shut off at the house, and it actually did end up happening later. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. So now sitting there, I was thinking like, this is so bad, but it didn't really affect me. It was kind of just there in the back of my head, it was like a little side thing. So we continue. I'm eating this ramen, I'm making the things, and I don't know why, but it really started to set in. And this was like the first night that I realized like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if we're poor, but I don't know. I don't think we have enough money to do things that normal people can do. And I finally understood this. And mind you, I was only 13 at the time. So now it's getting late. I think it was about 2 a.m., which at the time, this is some of the latest I've ever stayed up. Of course, there had been times I stay up later, but I never like tracked it. This is the first time I'm like intentionally staying up this late. So now I'm looking. I pushed that thought to the side of my head, and we're just sitting there having fun. And after talking for most of the night, my stepsister and I talked and talked and talked. And this topic came up about how we don't have money and stuff. And we both realized that at this time, I think it was like our awakening of like, holy crap, this is not good. And as we're sitting there talking, it didn't matter. None of it really mattered at all. Us not having money, us not being able to go do things outside of the house, anything like that. All that really mattered is that we were creative enough to have fun. Because to me, having fun was not getting expensive clothes, going out to eat, going to nice places. That was not my fun. My fun was slightly breaking my parents' rules and staying up late. And the issue is that even though this was really fun to me, it started to block my creativity. It started to make me really think, and it made me too aware, I would say. I was too aware of the situation that we were in. So now, after feeling kind of happy to now having this like really sad feeling of, wow, this is bad, it kind of kept me from living in the moment. All I could think about is like, shoot, when are we going to get out of this situation? What are we going to do tomorrow? Because I didn't think about the fact that this is something we struggled with every day. It wasn't something that was just going to happen now, was going to go away. Like tomorrow when we wake up, I'm probably going to have to eat ramen again and again for the next meal and again. And I have like no nutrients in my diet. And it's nothing I can really do about it. So I'm just sitting there thinking, and while my sister and I are talking, I see the sun start coming up. And as soon as I saw the sun at the horizon throughout my window, and by the way, there was like kind of like some trees, but you could see the sun in the corner of my window just popping up. So I was looking, the sun was coming up, and the amount of joy that hit my face, because it woke me up to the moment. I basically had a snap. I'm back. So now that I'm back, I'm looking outside and I'm realizing this is really what I enjoy. As time went on, I ended up falling asleep that night. But the next morning I woke up, I felt really just stressed. You know that feeling where you're like kind of like sick in your stomach? That's how I felt. I felt sick in my stomach of, wow, like that was fun, but what now? Like, what do I do now? What if I don't get to experience that again? And then for a very long period of time, all I could think about is, how are we going to get out of this situation? How am I going to have fun? That was the main question in my head, is what am I going to do now to have fun? And this lasted for years. And I don't even think it's like a normal thing, but for years of my life, until I would say late in high school, when I started making my own money, I didn't have any fun. Like, I didn't go out, I didn't really do anything because I was scared. I had so much fear that I'm going to lose it all. It was my biggest fear in life. And after I got what I wanted and I had these fun times, anytime I was doing anything with my friends, family, whoever, even when it was fun, this thought in the back of my head was always, what if I lose it all? And it made me realize something. The fun that you have is not in the money that you make. It's not just based on having nice things. It's about what you do and what you do to make your conscious experience a good thing. And what I mean by this is, every single morning when you wake up in your bed, you can do anything, and it literally depends on the perspective at which you see it. If you see things in a positive light, for example, if you are a glass half full type of person, life is literally going to be enjoyable. If you're a glass half empty person, somebody who worries, somebody who's always scared, it's not going to be that fun, because all you're thinking about is the things in your head. And the craziest part about all of this is the fact that I realized you are not your physical being. You are observing your conscious self. And what I mean by this is that we essentially live in our heads. And I'm not saying I would ever do this, but if I took a drug right now that made me on cloud nine and made me have this amazing experience within my mind, I could literally be homeless right now. And that's why homeless people do that, because it makes them feel the most joy. People who take drugs and whatnot, after they take the drugs, they feel awful about their life because they wake up to reality. But it takes them out of this reality of, wow, like it basically makes you think like everything is so good. Now for me, thank God it was not drugs. It was video games that took me out of reality. And anytime I used to play Fortnite, Minecraft, whatever, I would zoom out. I would zoom out and I would really be in my conscious experience. And because what I was doing was so enjoyable, it was a good experience. So I guess the whole point that I'm trying to get across here is that life is all about perspective. Life is literally what you make of it in every single aspect. And now I don't say this to flex. I don't want you guys to think that I think I'm the best person because I've made a good amount of money. But look at where I am. I'm in Miami in this crazy apartment. Honestly, it's pretty overpriced. And the thing that people don't understand is that I have these same exact experiences now as I did when I was completely poor. And the main thing that I understand now is that it isn't about the money or the things that you have. It's literally what you think. You are your thoughts. Your soul is the quality of your thoughts. And that's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. So maybe this was a yap sesh. Maybe this might seem pointless to some people, but hopefully just this wakes some people up to the fact that it's literally all about perspective. Just think about it. Try to be positive. Try to do things that make you happy. The simple things that make you happy will make you happier than a lot of things. And enjoy the moment that you're in. Because that night that I had that all-nighter, what I understand is that was one of the funnest nights of my life. Yet it was the most poor, the most helpless, and the least genuine, like from an outside perspective, I looked like I would be having a horrible time, but it was one of the funnest things ever. My first all-nighter. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching.